All right, so we're on to our next unit where we're going to start dealing with money, which is always a good topic because we all have to deal with it or get to have it or not have it, one or the other. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is called interest. And we're going to look at a specific type of interest, two types of interest today. The first one being simple interest. Now, interest in general is a fee charged by a bank or a person to another person or company for borrowing money. All right. So it's a fee you are charged for borrowing money. Or you can look at it as the other way around, where it's a fee paid to a person by the bank for giving the bank money to hold on to. So there's two perspectives with interest, which is very important. There is the investing, where you give somebody money or a bank money and they pay you interest. Or, unfortunately, there's a situation that most of us are in, is where you're borrowing money. And so you have to pay the fee. All right. You have to pay interest. Now, to calculate what's called simple interest earned by a certain amount of money, we have our formula here. I equals PRT. Now, where this is where I, capital I, is the interest that you've earned or that you have to pay. Again, there's two perspectives. There's the lender and the borrower. P is what's called the principal. So that's the money borrowed or the money lent. Again, there's two perspectives. And R is the interest rate. That's something we're going to have to talk about. And T is the time, which is always in years. So that is the tricky part about calculating the interest is the time aspect, because again, the time must be in years. Can't stress that enough. Even underlined it. I'll underline it again. Time must be in years. So just to start off with, find T if you invest a sum of money for 15 months. All right, so 15 months. So if we want to find our time in years, I'm going to take our 15 months and I'm going to divide it by the number of months in a year, which hopefully you know is 12. And so if I take 15 and I divide it by 12 months that are in a year, in fact, 15 months is equivalent to, or the same as, 1.25 years. Example 2, you could get something in weeks. So find T if you invest a certain amount of money for 88 weeks. So again, if I'm going to find my T value, it's got to be in years. So I'm going to take that 88 weeks. And this time I divide it by the number of weeks that are in a year. And the number of weeks that are in a year, hopefully this is no surprise again to you, 52. By the way, there's 365 days in a year if that happens to happen. All right, but this time we're figuring it out. We're using weeks, so I got 88 divided by 52, and this time 88 weeks represents 1.69 years. So again, you always want to make sure that your time is in years. All right, but again, our key formula here we're going to be using is I equals PRT. All right, now let's see here. Example 3, we're actually going to use our formula. Let me write it down here. I is equal to PRT. Put some spaces in there. There we go. Okay, so example 3. Ray puts $1,000 into a savings account. The interest on the account is 3.5%. He wants to put the money away for 3 years. How much will Ray have at the end of the time period? All right, so how much will he earn? Let's see here. So if I'm finding his interest, let's see. First off, it says Ray put $1,000 into the savings account. So that is what's called our principal. That's the amount of money that you lent out or that you borrowed. In this case, he's lent it to the bank to give to other people. Now, the second sentence, the interest rate on the account is 3.5%. All right, so that is my interest rate. Now, something that came up in our last two units, in fact, is that percent is you cannot use it in calculations. So I got to convert it to a decimal. And again, to do that, I'm dividing by 100%. And I end up with 0.035. All right. Now the third sentence. He wants to put the money away for 3 years. All right. Well, our time needs to be in years, and it is. So that's good. All right. So how much interest, how much will Ray have at the end of the time period? Well, let's see here. I can figure out the amount of interest that he's made by investing his money because I know the principal is $1,000. The rate, which I have converted now to a decimal, 0.035, and our time is 3. All right. So now all I have to do is multiply our 3 numbers. Grab my calculator here, and I multiply my 3 numbers, and I end up with, round number, $105. Now, it says, how much will Ray have at the end of the time period? He put $1,000 in. He made $105 in interest. So the amount that he will have at the end of it all, he has his principal, which he started with, plus he's made his interest. And so at the end of it all, he'll have his $1,000 plus he made $105. And so in total, Ray, at the end of all of this, in the account will have $1,105. There we go. All right. So A stands for the amount. Let's see. Let's try another one here. All right. So again, we're going to be using our formula here. So I might as well put it up there. I is equal to PR times T. All right. So example 4. Beth owes $18,000 in student loans. Ouch. The interest on her loans is 8.25%. She will be paying off these loans in 50 months. How much interest will Beth pay on her student loans? All right. So again, finding my variables. The first one, first sentence, Beth owes $18,000 in student loans. That would be called your principal, which again is any amount of money that you either borrow or you lend out, because there's 2 perspectives. Second sentence, the interest on the loans is 8.25%. So R is equal to 8.25%. And as I've mentioned several times, cents no good to us. Got to convert it to a decimal. So I'm going to divide by 100%. All right. So I end up with 0.0825. Time. All right. We have time is 50 months. But again, we need to have our time in years. So I'm going to take that 50 and I'm going to divide it by the fact there are 12 months in a year. And so my T in years is equal to, let me see, I take 50 divided by 12, I get 4.17 years. All right. And lastly, we're trying to find out how much interest Beth's going to have to pay on her student loans. All right, so I'm going to substitute in my values here. So I have I is equal to, I got my 18,000 times my interest rate. Just a big long, whoops, forgot the 0 in there. There we go. That would change my answer quite a bit. And again, my years is 4.17. All right, so let's see here. Well, I multiply my 3 numbers there. And let's see here, 18,000 times 0.0825 plus or times 4.17. She's going to have to pay, yikes, $6,192.45. There we go. So for her to borrow $18,000 for 4.17 years, it's going to cost her over $6,000 to do that. Again, interest is a tax for borrowing money. Sucks if you don't have a lot of money. It's really good if you're the lender. All right, next up, speaking of borrowing, Dave owes Visa a lot of money for using his credit card. That happens quite a bit. The interest rate for his Visa card is 18.5%. He finally paid off all the money owed on his Visa after 300 days. How much did Dave charge to his Visa card if he was charged $183 in interest. Okay, so again, we're going to use our simple interest formula. There we go. We got I equals PRT. All right, so now to come up with our values here. So first sentence doesn't tell me anything other than Dave borrowed some money. The interest rate for Visa was 18.5%. So again, there's my rate, 18.5%. Converting it to a decimal, so I'm going to divide by 100%. Oops. Oh, I get 0.185. If he finally paid off his Visa in 300 days. All right, so T is equal to 300 days. No good to us, though, because I need to convert that to years. So I'm going to take that 300, and I'm going to divide it by 365, because that's how many days there are in a year. And so if I take my 300 and I divide it by 365, I get 0.82 years. All right, so my time's in years. Got that all straightened out. All right, next up, next sentence. How much did Dave charge to his Visa card if he was charged $183.63 in interest? So we're trying to find out how much he borrowed. That would be your principal. All right, and we know that he is going to pay $183.63 in interest. All right, so I have all my values. It's time to substitute in and solve for P this time. All right, so let's see here. So we've got, this time I got the interest, 183.63 equals the principal. Hey, we're trying to figure that one out. My rate is 0.185. And the time is 0.82. Oh. There we go. All right, so now I want to simplify this. All right, so I still got my 183.63. That's not going to change. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply. I got three things that I'm multiplying. I'm going to multiply the numbers, all right, so simplify those. So I'm going to take my 0.185, and I'm going to times it by that 0.82, and I end up with I'm going to keep all the decimals here, 1517. Again, that's multiplied by P. A little star in there. There we go, multiplying. All right, and then finally, if I want to get the principal by itself, which I do, I'm going to divide here both sides by that 0.1517. I guess I could have just done 0.15, but go with accuracy here. We're dealing with money. All right, so those 0.1517s divide each other out. All I'm left with here is the principal. And let's see here. So the principal, take that 183.63, divide it by our decimal, and let's see here. I end up with Dave borrowed how much money here? He borrowed $1,250, and don't forget the 3 cents. There we go. So he borrowed $1,250.03. He did that for almost a year, and it cost him $183.63. There we go. So again, borrowing ain't cheap. Let's see what else we got here. One more. All right, so I'm going to, might as well start off. I'm going to write down my formula here. I is equal to P times R times T. All right, so what do we got here? So Julia deposited $500 into her bank account. After 20 months, there was $516.17 in her account. At what interest rate was her money earning in the bank? Okay. So start off, first sentence, Julia deposited $500 into her account. Well, she's investing, so that is our principal. $500. Okay. Now, after 20 months, there was $516.17 in her account. Okay, so first of all, I got my time here. It's 20 months. But again, I'm going to need to convert that to years. So I'm going to take that 20 and divide it by 12 because, again, there are 12 months in a year. And so my time here, let's see here. I take 20 divided by 12. I get 1.67 years. Now, after those 20 months, or 1.67 years, I should say, we have $516.17 in the account. That means that is all of her money plus the interest. That is what we call our A, our amount that's in there. It's $516.17. All right, now we're going to use that number. We're going to come back to that. Then last sentence there says, at what interest rate was her money earning in the bank? So we got our R is equal to. We don't know. Now there is, if we're going to use our simple interest formula, we've got our P here. We're looking for the R, so that's no problem. And we have our T. What we're missing here is our I. But again, when you're looking at your amount is that's in your account is all the money that you lent it to put in the bank plus the interest you've earned. And so what I can do to find that interest is I can rearrange this formula and move P over to the other side and have A minus P is equal to I. So if I subtract the amount minus the principal, I'm going to figure out how much interest there is. So let's see. Well, there is $16.17. Julia put $500 in there. And so the interest is just $16.17 is our interest. All right, so I'm going to put that down here now. So my I is equal to $16.17 in interest. All right, so now we have everything for our formula. So now I'm going to substitute in, and then we'll find our rate. All right, so my interest, again, is $16.17. My principal was $500. I'm trying to find the rate, and I'm going to multiply that by the time, 1.67. Okay, first of all, let's extend that out, and then we'll move it over. There we go. All right. All right, so now I want to simplify this formula. Now, again, on the right side of my equation, I've got three things being multiplied. Again, when you're multiplying just a bunch of things, it doesn't matter which order you put them in or which order you multiply them in. So I'm going to take my 500 and I'm going to multiply it by 1.67, and I end up with, no way, I'm going to try that again. Oops. 1.67 times 500. I do get 835, no decimals. And again, I have to multiply that by R. Now, my next step is I want to get R by itself because I want to find this rate. So I'm going to divide by 835. Both sides. So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. All right, and so those 835s divide each other out. And so my rate, let's see here, is going to be, take 16.17 divided by 835, and I end up with 0.019. But that is as a decimal. Now I got to work the opposite way and take my decimal and convert it to a percent. And to do that, well, we multiply by 100%. Just like when we have a percent going to a decimal, we divide by 100%. When we're going the opposite way, we multiply by 100%. And so our rate, this money's earning, I don't think it's a very good one because, let's see, I take my 0.019 times it by 100%, and I get 1.9% is the rate at which they were earning money, which isn't very good, by the way. It's usually what the banks will give you rate about now, which isn't a whole lot, but at least it's something. All right, so again, when you're dealing with interest, it's a fee. As I said, there's two perspectives here. If you're the lender, you're earning interest. Good thing. If you're the borrower, you're paying interest. Not a good thing. And in our next class, what we're going to look at is another type of interest called compound interest. So that will be next up.